I was human intelligence collector for most of my time. I went up to E6 during that time, deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, doing interrogation, source ops, spy stuff.
So you said you were being forcibly removed for being trans?
Yeah.
You said almost 20 years. What did you do, and what does it feel like um, to get turned back on?
Like, let's just be honest. It does feel shitty, right? There is no retirement out of this. I'm not getting a retirement. I'm none of that. There is separation pay involved, but that's the bare minimum that they could. I mean, I have 100% VA, so I guess I have that. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, and like everyone from the unit is so like they're angry. I remember when my S1 called me, he was like, I don't want to do this. In fact, he was like, if I could just doctor the paperwork and say that you were always a woman, I would just do it.
What's up, YouTube? Drill Sergeant here, and we got a very special guest. So we got a one-on-one with Aiden Swallow of Arizona 6th Congressional District, and you're gonna love this one, guys. Aiden, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you? Thank you so much for asking me to come on and do this.
Of course, of course. Like I said to you two, we met before, and on those SOL lives, it can get it can get pretty funny pretty quickly, and I wanted to make sure I got in depth, and lo and behold, I'm doing the research and I'm looking you up, and I see that not only do I want to get more in depth, but I've noticed that your website, and let's go ahead and just tell the people what that is here. aswallowforcongress.com. aswallowforcongress.com. I'm looking at the website and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember all this stuff on here before. Looks like you've been adding to it. Um,
Yeah, I've been meaning to add to it. It's been like percolating in my brain since I don't really have like a staff and I don't really want to use a lot of donor money to pay for a staff at this point. The I've been just kind of thinking about stuff, and then literally last night I was like in preparation for this, I was like I'm gonna start adding all the things that I've been thinking about. So
well, it's definitely a good idea. And I see on here, well, I'll tell you what. I see some things that I want to talk about, but before I do that, why don't you tell the people what you want them to know? What it is you're running for? What what matters to you?
yeah, so I think when it comes to what matters for me, I can break it down into two pillars, right? And one is the economic crisis that we're facing, the working families not being able to um, basically survive, and that's been a problem for a long time. But it's really kind of culminating now. And then the other side is equal rights and liberties that are being stripped away gradually, to include myself as being one of the main people that are attacked. But even if I wasn't, I mean, I'd say immigrants probably bear the brunt of it right now. But um, those are the two main pillars. And really what it came down to is for years, I just kept, thinking there has to be somebody better. I'm tired of the corruption in government. But I was in the military up until 4 weeks ago, which as as I've been able to sign the paperwork, and now I can actually talk about it more. As of like 4 or 5 weeks ago, um, I was still in the reserves. Uh, now granted, I still technically am, but I've at least signed the paperwork, so it's going through the process of being forcibly removed from the army for being trans. And it was something that they were fighting with. It was something that they were working on. And and so when that after that happened, or once I started, once, well, really, once January hit, let's go back. Yeah, once January hit, I realized that I needed to do something. And the reason I brought up the military is because I didn't really get a chance to serve in politics or do anything like that because I was in the army. I was already serving the country, and it's kind of complicated to serve in the army and the in politics. There's granted in the reserves you can, but there's a lot of red tape. But
Yeah.
um, but when January hit, I knew it was only a matter of time before I was going to be kicked out anyway. And I had almost nearly done 20 years. I decided that I couldn't stand around anymore. I couldn't stand to see all these injustices occur, to see somebody who doesn't live the Constitution trying to act like they're a leader of the, of the free world, of the Constitution. And so I decided to stand up and fight. And around February, I decided I was going to run. And then it took a little bit of time to get the preparations in motion. And then I launched, I don't know, like 2 months ago or something, two and a half, something like that, months ago. And I've been going ever since and, really striving for those two pillars that I talked about.
Wow. So I didn't know that. So you said you were being forcibly removed for being trans?
Yeah. Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I,
no, yeah, I'm part of that push. Like I said, I didn't talk about it in the Sons of Liberty interview because at the time I had not signed the paperwork. And so I was kind of tiptoeing around it until I signed it, basically.
yeah. Oh my God. So we got to start there. What is that? I mean, it may seem like a silly question, but I want to know from your mouth, what does that feel like? What does that feel like? First of all, you said almost 20 years. What did you do, and what does it feel like um, to get turned back on?
Yeah, so let me start with the easy question, which was the 20 years. So I was human intelligence collector for most of my time. I went up to E6 during that time, deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, doing interrogations, source ops, spy stuff.
Mhm.
After that, I decided to go into counterintelligence. I switched over to counterintelligence. That became my prime MOS. Human intelligence collector became my secondary, and I focused on national security investigations. It was at that time that I was then promoted to sergeant first class, and then I became after conducting investigations in Southwest Asia. I then came back to Fort Huachuca, good old Arizona, Sierra Vista, where I was an instructor since 2019, teaching leadership and intelligence on both human and CI. And so and then I was an instructor for a while. Something I didn't talk about, but I'll basically an essay occurred while I was in the army. I don't want to because you're put on YouTube. I don't want to say the full name, but essay occurred, and then that caught. I was active reserve at the time, and because I went from regular army to active reserve, and then so that I just decided I didn't want to be active anymore, and so after that occurred, I went into the reserve where I kind of did instructing on a part-time basis and I was working on a medical discharge. And this was all before I became trans or I was always trans, I just didn't realize it, but this is all before I realized I was trans. And yeah, so I was working on a medical discharge for SA and the PTSD and deployments and all that good stuff we all know about. And then that's when I also realized I was trans in 2024. The unit was super supportive. There wasn't any issue there. I was working on it. And then, of course, the other stuff started coming down. So because that all came down in 2025, the medical discharge stuff that I was working on was canceled,
Oh my God.
foregoed, and now I'm just being forced out basically. So that's how that worked. And then how does it feel? Well, I mean, if like let's just be honest, it does feel shitty, right? There is no retirement out of this. I'm not getting a retirement. I'm none of that. There is separation pay involved, but that's the bare minimum that they could. I mean, I have 100% VA, so I guess I have that. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, and like everyone from the unit is so like they're angry. I remember when my S1 called me, he was like, I don't want to do this. In fact, he was like, if I could just doctor the paperwork and say that you were always a woman, I would just do it. You know,
Yeah.
because like the military, despite what most people say, the majority of the military is supportive of it. They don't always understand everything, but I don't expect everybody to understand everything. But for the most part, they're supportive of it, especially somebody who I've done it. Well, it's not like I'm like an E4 voting been in for 2 years or something like.
Yeah.
I've been around, right? And so, yeah, I think I answered your questions. I don't know. I don't.
No, you definitely have. That's sick, man. I mean, that is absolutely. I'm so sorry. Now, I think you hit on another good point. Is we know that the military mostly will be conservative leaning for the most part, right? But this idea that like people think that all the military are the same assholes who stormed the Congress or the Capitol, or all shitheads like Hegseth, Keg's breath. That's not really the case. Like, that's why he's not in it anymore. People forget about that. Like, most people, especially as you go up the ranks, and especially officers who have some sort of education in what it takes to actually do war, realize it's not about being John Wayne and Rambo. It's a lot more than that. And we're looking for everybody who's good at their job and who has training. We need them. And most military professionals realize that. So I think that, what you just said may actually maybe open some more eyes, or it's just good to state, because I hate that's now the MO. That's now what it is to be in the military, is this asshole and who's representing us, who can't even keep his hands off himself, and dealing with the SA, and then every single thing that they want to get rid of is represented in you. I'm sorry for that, but I'm happy that you stepped up, because I think that representation now more than ever is exactly what's needed. Exactly what's needed. Wow.
I want to address the two things that you mentioned. So, I agree with you. I think that it's really good to, and I don't know why the military is always seen as this conservative thing. In my opinion, military's never really been conservative. I was in the military before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was there when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. I went through my entire journey in the military. I realized I was trans. At one point, I thought I was gay. At one point, when I realized that I was asexual, like everything that I've done, realized about myself, I was in the military for. Up until a couple weeks. Technically, I'm still in now. Well, technically, because
Yeah.
it's not because I haven't been like officially discharged for the fifth time. Because once you go into the reserves, you get discharged all the time. Anyway,
Right.
it
Right.
that's all paperwork. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But, um, but like so everything that's happened has been in the military. Like I've seen, now granted, like people might think, oh, it's conservative because of, and it's always like economics. But in my mind, the military has never been a Republican thing, has never been a conservative thing, because the vast majority of people join the military because that's their only way out. That's their only economic relief out. The only way that you can get your college paid for, go to the military. The only way that you have free healthcare, go to well, virtually free.
Yeah.
Go to the military. The way that you have all of these things because you go to the military. And so like in a lot of ways it's like a mercenary organization, and who joins? People who need money, people who need a leg up, people who need help because life has given them a shitty hand, and that's vast majority working families, Democrats, stuff like that, not really conservatives. So this idea that the conservatives are for the military is honestly always been a misnomer, and I don't really know why that exists.
Well, there's two existences in the military. So I'm 73 Charlie. I'm the guy who's doing finances, and you are intelligence. That means there's a profile on you before you ever landed in boot camp, right?
Yeah, top secret clearance, all that. Yeah.
Right. So there's a whole other side. There's a whole other side of gunners, of tank guys, of mechanics that come from the Bible Belt just as poor, but have been convinced that that Jesus walks around with an AR-15 and and wants them to be rich. now and hates all other colors. And they exist in the large numbers in different places than you or I would be. So when I was in the reserves, I used to get deployed to Fort Bragg. So I would be deployed, but be deployed in America. That's where I would go, right? We would cover their finances, and those guys would be sent out because Bragg, of course, is 82nd Airborne, all the berets, all the guys walking around.
Yeah, you were mobilized, not really
Yeah, so I
deployed.
was
You were mobilized.
mobilized.
Yeah.
And you just see a whole different. You see when you get there, you realize, yeah, there's two different militaries. So but even then. I remember, Big Sarge always says the same thing, the same guy you share a foxhole with that you knew maybe right or left doesn't matter. You just never thought that they would actually be like, yeah, it's okay to forget the Constitution. I mean, you just never thought it would go that far. But a big part of that could be, I believe, Fox News is on every single outpost, barrack, company, everywhere now. They're being brainwashed. I'm not sure when that was decided. I can't remember. I used to know. But do you remember when that happened? Did you see that transition?
Yeah, I'd say I started to really notice the brainwashing occurring. Now, granted, I'm not that old, I'm still a millennial, so I'm not, I don't know too much, and I joined in '06, so,
Yeah.
there's some limited time there. But from what I've noticed, it seemed to happen really in the George W. Bush era, because that's they started really pushing the propaganda of we're going to this war, and it's like, and they have weapons of mass destruction, even though we have one source that's not even really vetted, but whatever. And like we have all this different reasons to go over there. Oh, and then also I want the oil. Oh, and then also it's a holy war too, guys. Like, so, like, when they started beefing all of that propaganda, that's when I really want to say Fox moved away from being reliable news and was just propaganda. Now, I don't think that they went full tilt. Like, I think it was a gradual thing. But I want to say it was a gradual, and then gradual starting at George W. Bush, and then it really solidified when Trump was going to win the first time. And then after that, it's just been a regime network since then. But
Well, okay. I got to push back there. Fox has been bullshit since Glenn Beck. This is before Bush. now, granted, they always were. They always had that one or two guys. Now Brett Baer is that guy, and he's the worst of them. They always have somebody on there that would go, okay, well, this part of the day is going to be our best example of straight up news. But from 6 o'clock on, it's always been this propaganda arm. That's what Rupert Murdoch was there specifically to do. But anyway, we can get in. It has gone even more times 10, which is I think everybody can agree with. Especially when Tucker Carlson got there and we start talking about the white replacement theory. Like,
oh yeah, and
yeah.
like, and sorry about that. Yeah, I know Glenn Beck, but yeah, I didn't really care what the news said until I was already
Right.
like at war. Okay, so I didn't really follow the news. The most I followed was Al Gore being, shafted from winning. That's the most I followed.
Yeah, can you imagine if we decided to just storm the Capitol because there was an actual stealing of an election? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like what happened in the George Bush Al Gore election is way like factually, objectively, like way more just like questionable than the 2020 election. Like, bro, you lost. Just deal with it. Like,
Yeah, you lost, man. And Gore won. I mean, in every instance that you can bring up a fact, first of all, there's inferences. The you happen to have to recount the state that your brother happened to be the governor of.
Yeah,
Bro,
Florida, I think 3 times or something
three
like that.
times.
Like it was something like that. Yeah.
And then when it went to the Supreme Court, instead of recounting again, the Supreme Court just decided who the winner was. Which for some reason is legal in America, which we didn't know until that day. And we didn't do anything to change it. Democrats. And speaking about, now that we're here,
Good
I'm
segue.
looking, Democrats. I don't want to give a free pass to the Nazi party that we're dealing with. But let's just start here, Democrats. I see that you're on your site. You have I'm not. It feels like it's a poem, but it might just be like talking points. But
Yeah, it definitely wasn't meant to be. I could write a poem, but it
right.
wasn't meant to be. But
So in this very first thing you see here, it says one who's willing to challenge the status quo, one who doesn't toe the line for the Republicans or Democratic establishment. That
how did I know that you were going to key in on that immediately?
because you know that's what that's what I'm about. That's when the anger we can talk about that too. That's when I get motivated because let's just take a recent example. Mamdani wins his primary. He's not even the mayor. We're not even talking about a governor. We're talking about a mayor of a single city. He wins a primary. And Democrats, establishment Democrats, shit on him. As if they don't know. Well, they were shitting on him beforehand, but as if they don't now know that, well, if you lose it, you realize the other side now is a fascist regime destroying the democracy in every state in the land. And you can't bring yourself to do what's right because you're greedy. I don't even know what it is. I got to tell you, I'm afraid that we're going to lose again because these assholes still don't get the gravity of the situation and care more about their pocketbook than the people. So when I hear you say you're here to challenge the status quo and you're not in line for Republicans or the Democratic establishment, talk about that because I think that's what people want to hear about.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Mamdani winning the primary has certainly emboldened me to speak more about the things that I've already wanted and thought about. But
And I would think
um,
that would be that should be the reaction.
right, yeah,
But who you are on the inside comes out, and
exactly.
those like you will be emboldened. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, you're good. You're good. Well, sorry, what was it? Oh, yeah, to talk about establishment. Yeah, so for me, it's not a like when people like to say, "Oh, it's two sides," both sides is wrong. Well, yes, but it's not all the way at two sides, right? Like one side are Nazis and the other side is evil and corrupt. One is objectively worse than the other.
Right.
So like I'm gonna go for like that's why I'm a Democrat, not a Republican. But I also do, in fact, still think that the other side is evil and corrupt. So although it's the lesser of two evils in terms of the political party to choose, because we are in a dichotomy situation, only one or two parties are going one of the two parties are going to win in especially any kind of congressional race right now, right? And so I can't just I'm not going to win by going to another party. So
Right.
I got to choose one. So I'm going to choose the lesser of the two evils. But the Democratic establishment, they're still not good either. They're evil too. And so I'm going to go after all those people who decide to be career politicians and don't listen to their constituents and decide to take big money and lobbyists. I'm going to expose them. Like that's just what I'm going to do. Like Chris Murphy exposes the Republicans who say what they want behind closed doors and just play this acting session, this theater session when the cameras are on.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'll expose the Democrats who do the same thing. I'm not for people who are violating their oath or going against their constituents, regardless of the party that they're in. So,
Yeah. So evil is, for me, I would say, all right, that's a bit more subjective, and I'm not sure if I would say evil. I would know the evil ones would be, yeah, definitely Republicans are evil, even if they're not, because if you're okay with this bill that's going through, or if you're like, what's her name? Is that Mikowski who
oh yeah, Jen McCaskey or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, something like that, who said, well, I'll tell you what, everything in this bill is going to hurt my constituents. They're all of us. So if you make it so that Alaska doesn't have to deal with it, I'll vote
Oh
for it.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's fucking evil.
yeah.
That's
She
that's
sold out. Yeah.
evil. Now, corrupt, yeah, we're all corrupt. Politicians are
No,
corrupt.
that's fair. Evil might have been a little bit inflammatory, but
Yeah,
that's okay. But
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
that's fair. I would agree that that was probably maybe a little bit too harsh, but
I also don't care. They deserve
yeah.
it. So yeah, right now I'm not caring about holding my tongue for them either. But just to clarify, now, what is it that you are more boldened to say? What is it that you are more emboldened to be about? I have a list of things here that I absolutely love that I didn't see before, like term limits, taxing the rich. Let's get into some of those things.
Strangely, the term limits was one of the first organizations I signed up on. They were sorry, this is a bit of a segue, but literally I announced my candidacy and then like a week later I get a random call and they're like from the term limits people and they're like, "Do you support term limits?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden and then and I just hadn't been like posting about it.
yeah,
I guess I should have been, but I hadn't been. And so yeah, I just started basically post. I mean, it was on Facebook, but like it gets buried and whatever. So
yeah. Well,
um
now is kind of the time. Like it was a year out. Uh, Now, we're getting closer to August, September. Like this is everybody's just now kind of getting ratcheted up, especially if you don't have money, and that's a big one. So we're going to talk about term limits, and I guess before we do that, since I hit on the money, no corporate donors for you. I'm presuming.
Yeah, you'll see also on my platform page because I go into a couple other platforms. I have like a meme up with AOC, and I wouldn't normally put like other Congress women up there, but like AOC, I don't know, I think is a good one to model. But like she has like this list of stuff that when you're a congressional candidate, you would a progressive congressional candidate has to have all these qualities, and no corporate money is one of the things. Like I feel like everyone who says that they're progressive shouldn't be taking corporate money. Like that should just be
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Of course, Citizens United turned this country's political landscape into an auctioning bid, and it's gross. But people like Bernie Sanders, people like Mamdani, people like AOC, the entire Justice Democrats platform before, I guess, Cenk is now had to leave that early, but we won't talk about them and their downfall into bullshit. But anyway, tax the rich, term limits. Let's stick right here. If you're a progressive, you got to. Everything that you're going to be asked is, well, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for that? And it seems like, for some reason, saying I want to tax the rich is, it's like the third rail or something. Talk about it. What's your plan on that?
yeah. So and like okay, so I'll preface this with I'm not an economist, right? So any plan that I have, it would be worked through with an actual economist, right? Like that's not my specialty, you know. But I look at other people's progressive plans, even Mamdani, right? He just proposes 39%. they already get taxed at 37.5. So a increase in an increase of that small really doesn't make that much a difference for them, but it makes a huge difference for everyone else. Additionally, I'd say not just with taxing them, and honestly, I think that they could do with more. In fact, I have another economic thing that I'll talk about in a second. But honestly, I honestly think it could be more. I went with 39 because that's what some of the other ones, some of the other candidates or some of the other progressives who threw out that number, and they obviously threw it out for a reason. So
Hmm.
I kind of went with that because, again, I'm not an economist, right?
Right.
I just know that they do, in fact, need to be taxed more.
And it's kind of like
But I'd say it's
solidarity at that point.
also,
Yeah.
do what? Oh,
It's kind of like
solidarity, yeah.
solidarity at that point. I can go with that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and but then also I would say is additionally, with taxing them more, we have to eliminate their tax loopholes because often most of them don't even pay the 37% anyway
Hmm.
because they find loopholes around it. There's some billionaires who not just percentage wise, but literally at the end of the taxes pay less than some working Americans. And so like that's just not okay.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it's supposed to work. Um, so and the reason that I say that, and this comes down to the root problem, and I think a lot of times it's the root problem that we need to look at because when I post about this on TikTok and when I post about this on other places, I get working Americans defending the billionaires like, oh, you just want a handout or, they work hard for that. But the reality is there is no person in the world who does $1 billion or more of work.
Right.
Not a single person. So every billionaire who has that money got it because they did something that was unethical. Maybe they didn't pay for their workers to have a livable wage. Maybe they didn't pay for their workers to have health care. Like Walmart, one of the most richest families in the world. I think they are the richest family in America. And the vast majority of Walmart employees are on Medicare or Medicaid,
Right.
like a version of that. I'm not sure which one, but like they're on healthcare, right? They're on government produced healthcare. And they're on SNAP and they're on all these benefits. Why? Because Walmart doesn't pay for them to have all these benefits, but they could certainly afford it.
Hmm.
Maybe they could instead sacrifice 3 billion, you know. Um, so these people don't they have no reason to have this money, right? They didn't earn this money. They didn't. They just had the name, right? They didn't earn this money. The workers work 3, 4, 5 times as hard as they do. They just happen to be the ones in charge, right?
Right.
And so they don't deserve it to begin with. So since we've already tried this idea of trickle down economics, it didn't work, right? It didn't work. They didn't do what they were supposed to. So now we have to change it. Now we have to go a different way. We already went through this battle plan of giving them a chance. They don't get a chance anymore. So now it's time for us to take it into our hands and they just need to pay more because we can't trust them to do the right thing.
So what are we on? 40 years of trickle down economics, and
I don't remember when Reagan was president, something like that.
people are still being pissed on their backs and calling it rain. This is, I mean, my God, uh, absolute bullshit. So that goes back to the establishment, the corruption, the entitlement, the idea that I just want to make more money inevitably becomes more important than the people. I'm down 100%, and I like the idea of the loopholes. I think I don't know why we stopped talking about it, but the loopholes in 2016 or before, I think during Barack Obama's race, the loopholes was one of the things that kept coming up, and of course, he went milk toast. He proposed a plan for Medicare that instead of Medicare for all, he proposed, well, we're going to do what the Republicans wanted 30 years ago, which is better than what we had. Now, at least most people have insurance, but we still go halfway. And people are wondering why they think that both parties are bad. As far as universal health care,
Although,
um,
but before we jump on universal healthcare, if it's
yeah,
okay with you, I want to also talk about another economic plan that
yes,
I did put on the website. However, I don't know if I should be super outspoken about it. I am super, honestly, since I'm at the beginning of my campaign. Who knows? Maybe I'll put out some feelers. Maybe you'll let me know.
Yeah.
But another congressional candidate for CD7. So they're going through the special election now. I honestly, I like him as a person. I don't know if he's going to necessarily win as a
Uh-huh.
candidate for CD7. I think it's going to be between Adelita or Deja personally. But um,
Deja Fox. Yeah, we had her
yeah.
on SOL as well.
Oh, I know. Yeah. You guys, and then Big Sarge called me out for telling you guys about Deja, but it's okay. I was in the chat, so it's funny.
Yeah.
The but his name was Patrick Harris Sr., right? Or is, not was. He's not dead. His name is Patrick Harris Sr. And he proposed, he's like known for this at this point because every time he gets on an interview, this is all he talks about. And he's calling it Cap the Cap, right? And what it is it's a one page, single page. I have the link on my website so you
Yeah,
can
I'm
like
going
go
to
to
it
it.
now.
And I even signed the petition for it because I endorse it, to be honest. Um, it's called Cap the Cap. It's a one-page amendment, a constitutional amendment. It would take a while for it to actually take effect. I don't know. It depends on how aboard. I don't know. From the way it's looking, who knows? Maybe the millennials and Gen Z will be like, yeah, fuck this. Yeah, let's go ahead and make this happen. But what it does is it caps everyone, every single person in the United States, their individual wealth at $1 billion. Now, let's keep in mind that we've already established that no one actually does $1 billion worth of work.
Right.
They don't, right? There's no reason that we have people with hundreds of billions. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But so what this does is it caps their individual wealth. So at the end of the year, now granted, at first there'll probably be a metered approach to it or a staggered approach. Probably wouldn't come into play. I don't look like all those details, like those can be ironed out with legislation and stuff. But
Mhm.
I think capping their wealth is the good start. And here's the thing about it. So you cap their wealth, everyone's wealth, at $1 billion. So at the end of the year, the surplus that you've gained over the 1 billion, you now have a certain amount of time to spend it. You can either invest that into a nonprofit, you can do whatever. What on it quite honestly, you can make the roads better, you could give it to, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You literally can do whatever you want with the money, but you have to spend it. And then if you don't, then the government seizes it and then they spend it for you. But so the idea is that you would just spend it yourself, but you're capping the wealth because what that does is that invests all that extra money into your citizens, into other organizations, into the infrastructure of the country, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then because there's no reason that anyone even, quite honestly, I don't see how anyone needs more than like 100 million and like that. And I'm being generous because I can't even imagine having 1 million.
Right.
So, right. So like, I don't see how people having $1 billion is even a question. But anyway,
So I
so
could
that's the
already
other
see
part.
all of the backlash for this, and
Oh,
I'm
I
glad
know.
you want to
Oh, I
test it
know.
out.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
People are going to be like, well, go- government seizing money is that just sounds like I got a problem. I don't know why. And
That sounds pretty commie. I got it.
right.
Got it.
But I can see the idea of this. For instance, I think in the 80s, like in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, around this time, when we had the booming middle class. What they mean is the booming white middle class was anything over like the top 1% was taxed at like 70%. Period. Right? And it worked. It just works. It just works because people are getting paid more. People are the government can actually do things like roads and like invest in companies and other businesses and give loans. And that was when you could work a single job. The wife could stay home. You could get a white picket fence and a home and equity and a car. And if you made it to management, you might get 2 cars. Like, And the rich were still getting rich because people were spending the money. People were spending the money. But greed does something to the brain where it's like, no, I want it all. I need it all. And you end up actually lowering the price of the dollar, what it's worth. Like, I think you would actually be richer and wealthier if you just paid more in taxes instead of tried to spend all of your money on elections so that you don't have to pay taxes. Like, it's a what is that? The degradation or degradation, something like that, of the mind when the more money you have. And there's no reason anybody should have $1 billion. And the more they get at that point, the less human they become. We're looking at the aliens like Elon and Peter Thiel and all the rest of them. Like, it no longer is about how much money you make. It's just about how much can I crush the plebs and reinforce my narcissism at some point. So we've got to do something. And if it's cap to cap, then I'm with it. I think we'll float that out there. I'm 100% sure it won't be that by the time it passes Congress. But the idea itself, if we start from that, that's the type of fight I'm talking about. Like, don't start with half of that and then get it dwindled down so your 10% is what the bill is. Start there. Give me your shit. You don't get any more than $1 billion. How about we start there and then we can start negotiating? That's called fight.
Yeah, it's funny because that's kind of the basis of making a deal, which is funny because the guy who's supposed to be the art of the deal doesn't know how to make a deal. Because when you make a deal, you start big, and then the other person goes low, and then you compromise somewhere in the middle. The best deal, no one gets what they want. Everyone just gets okay. Everyone's
Right.
just fine with it. That's the best deal. Like nobody gets what they started with.
Right.
That's
Right. It's called compromise. I learned it in Star Trek. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about universal health care and free college. We asked you how you're going to pay for it. So all of the, I don't know why you're watching this. If you're going to ask me, well, how are you going to pay for it? We just fucking told you. So stop. Just stop. On the other hand,
I thought you were talking to me at first. I was like, oh no, you're talking to YouTube.
no, I'm talking to you two. I'm talking to my fans. They expect this level of honesty from me. I need them. If you're not ready for that, you need to be gone or shut up and listen. Now, universal health care, free and affordable college. Go in. I could read from it, but I'd rather hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, and I don't like to have. Honestly, I hate having what's it called? Walls of text. So I tried to only put the stuff on there that was really relevant. So I don't mind talking more about it. So universal healthcare, I think that honestly is the fact that we don't have it yet is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So like you talked about Obamacare, right? Like that was just a half thing that was baked in. Obamacare is fine, but Obamacare is not affordable. Like it's just not. Like I'm sorry, Obamacare is not affordable. So, like that was I mean, it's better than what it was, but
Right.
it's not, like honestly, we're one of the only countries and we're the richest country in the world and we don't have health care for everybody. And it's ridiculous. When you look at people's arguments for it is how are you going to pay for it? Well, we already talked about how you're going to pay for it. That's easy. Like that is an easy one to do. How are you going to pay for it? We'll figure out the numbers later, but I guarantee you I can get the money for it if we actually just tax the rich, right? Even without cap the cap, right? Like just tax the rich, right?
Literally,
We'll be able
the
to pay for it.
2% that you're talking about, 2% of one person. We're not even going to go to the whole Walmart family. And also, on a side note, everybody who's praising the Walmart daughter who said that she stands with the people and thinks that everybody should be able to have affordable SNAP benefits and all this stuff, it's because she doesn't want to pay that for them either. So stop praising rich people for doing the bare minimum, YouTube.
Well, also maybe don't
Anyway,
praise her. Maybe when she takes that money and then just gives her employees more money, then
right.
then we'll praise her for those things. Don't give me lip service. Just show me that you actually care about your employees.
Thank you. Now, where was I? Oh yes. If we're talking about 2% of one person, Elon Musk, 400 billion, well, it's probably down by now, thanks to all you awesome people out there boycotting Tesla and making sure that his businesses are failing daily. You're good people. It works. Don't let nobody tell you that that type of resistance doesn't work. But if you just took 2%, 2% more from him, 2% of 100 billion, forget it. 2% of $50 billion. Let's find out. What is 2%? What's 2% of 50? You're smart. Okay, well, let's see. 2% of 100 is 2. So 2% of 50 is 1. All right? That is $1 billion. Yep. $1 billion. And then 100, $2 billion. 200, $4 billion. If you took 2% of half of his money, you'd have $4 billion to pay for anybody who wants to go to a public school, not including the ones who want to go to private school and pay for themselves, which there will be. It's one person. So don't ask me how you're going to pay for it. The truth is, what are you going to pay for instead is the question. Am I right? Like, you would rather pay for billionaires' tax cuts. You'd rather pay for war machines. You'd rather pay for whatever it is that you're going to pay for instead of that. But you could pay for that with 2% of one person. So if you raise 2.5% of the rich to everybody just in the 1%, you could pay for that and more. You'd have left over to feed the world. We're so much richer. Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off again. That's what I do. So, okay. And you, to know that you're the richest country in the world, and yet every other country can afford universal health care. And we didn't even get to college. Universal health care lets you know that when they say, that we can't do it, it should be such an obvious lie, an open-faced, bold-faced lie, because it's impossible to be richer than other countries who have it. It's impossible. Mind you, we're giving aid to countries that have free health care, like Israel. So it's so far beyond the pale for a poor person, for a middle class person, for a middle upper class person to ever say to themselves, well, how are we going to pay for it? The question should be, what are we paying for instead? Because I'd like to have some of that free health care in case something happens to my kids. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so let's just put it in perspective. Now, this is quick math, and I used AI real quick because it's faster for these quick kind of scenarios, right?
Yeah.
I used good old Gemini over here. But there are 813 billionaires in the United States. That's just billionaires, not the people who make over 1 million a year. So 813 billionaires in the United States. Their estimated wealth is about $5.17 trillion dollars. I just did a calculation real quick on just 5 trillion, not the 0.17, 170 billion. So I did 5 trillion times 2%. That's $100 billion roughly that we would get in a year as a country by just taxing them 2% more. That 100 billion could pay for universal health care for everyone, free 2-year college for sure, potentially 4-year college too. I don't know. I'd have to talk to an economist, but probably.
Yeah.
You know, like be able to relieve everybody of their 4-year college debt. You know, student loans. Like we'd be able to like infrastructure plan like. And that's just in one single year. So if you can imagine if that was instituted now, by the time Trump, if unfortunately, if we have to live through 4 years of him actually being president and he doesn't get impeached, that would be $400 billion just in extra money that we could use to make the country better. And that's just taxing 2% more.
It's so easy that it every time whenever this does come up and someone can just be honest about that, it's so easy that it should be the shortest segment in every news program. What's the problem? I don't understand it. I don't
I don't know how. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't know. You don't know. I don't
I
talk me off the ledge. I don't understand it. Why are
No,
we afraid to say
I
it?
don't get it. Like it's one of the biggest crimes in America where the working class people have started to defend the billionaires don't even have to pay. They get free defenders to go out there and defend their billions, but they're the ones stealing it from you and you're defending them stealing it from you. I don't.
I don't know how to put it. I mean, even if more numbers, fine. I'm not, you know what? There's a cult out there. And what I've realized in doing this job for a few years is there's no such thing as common sense or some sort of factoid or reasoning with someone who's in a cult. It's just not the case. I mean, I could just for fun and shits and giggles, I could just read you comment sections of where I said, let me just see how long this can go. And the hole that the person would dig for themselves among mounds and mounds of facts. And when it just gets too far, they'll go, but what about this? What about this other thing? And I said, no. What about the thing we're talking about? Can you just say that? Yes. If you say yes, you get it, then I'll go to the other thing. And it's gone. It's just gone. Like they have the ability to just not think rationally. Fine. For the rest of you, let's go back to some numbers. Billionaires. Whatever you get paid at your job, if it's owned by a billionaire who has a boardroom of millionaires, let's just take the billionaire and we'll say the reason why they can make billions of dollars, if they have $5 billion, if they gave away 1 billion of those dollars and spread it evenly throughout the people who were getting paid, which is you, and they have what? A company of 1,000 people. $1 billion, 1,000 people, right? That means everyone makes 100,000 more a year? Is it something like that?
Yes, that should be right, but let me make sure.
$100,000 more a year for your billionaire boss to be a 4 billionaire boss instead of a 5 billionaire boss. Am I making sense? Like there's whatever excuse that you had for yourself, maybe, well, one day I want to be a billionaire and I want to hoard it and make sure people don't get it, which is a real thing. I just heard someone say the other day that they had a cousin who said that I don't remember where I heard this, but their cousin said that ditch diggers don't deserve to get a livable wage. And then when they asked him, well, what happens when the person when the ditch digger can no longer live? Then who digs the ditches? And after realizing that there's no answer, the person literally said, there's always going to be a sucker somewhere. And it's like, do you say that in confession as well? Do Do you say that when you're putting that charcoal on your forehead so everyone knows that you're a Christian on Ash Wednesday? I find it interesting. So the same, I used to work at a law firm and got something like that same answer when all other excuses were gone. To this one girl who, young lady who was going to law school. She was there as a paralegal, then the internship, and she was staunch Republican, and it ended up being, by the end of it, you know, when there's nowhere else to go, when the numbers don't add up, and you're talking to someone who understands what they're saying, it ends up just being, well, they just don't deserve it. Fuck them. And that makes you strong. And that same person is wearing the black charcoal cross on the top of their forehead. And you have to ask the question, well, then why were you wearing that then? If it's okay to just be mean, dark-hearted, and don't care for your fellow man, why were you wearing that? There is no answer. There's no answer. What do you think about the religious right, since we're here? And I know
Oh,
that's charged.
yeah.
I know it's charged.
Yeah, so I have a lot of strong opinions when it comes to theocracy and the religious right, and being deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've seen what theocracy does to countries and the horror that it does.
Hmm.
And I don't talk about it much because of where I live. There's a lot of like strong believers, but there's a big difference between the strong believers. I mean, shit, even my girlfriend is and actually like a Christian, right? But like, and like I don't mind, whatever. But there's a difference between people like that, and then there's a difference with the people who you're talking about, who literally go against their own teachings. People like Christy Nome, who are just like cosplayers of Christianity, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are just cosplayers of Christianity. Like none of them really live what it means, and this is not my judgment. This is their own book, right? And like as somebody who doesn't follow that faith, I probably know more about their faith than all of them combined.
That's the classic
Because
story.
because I actually do the research and I've lived it, and I grew up in a evangelical world before I joined the military.
Hmm.
So like I'm very knowledgeable in that area, and so like it kind of, it honestly, it disgusts me that so many of these people, and those, by the way, those are the same people who want to say people like me are doing identity politics, but they're on a press conference with a cross on, and they're on the Congress floor talking about their faith, but they're going to accuse me of identity politics.
Hmm.
Just saying.
So I think that they'll get it. I think they'll get it. I mean, it's about doing what's right. And you seem to have that in the bag. You seem to have that as a compass. So if you're watching from Arizona, don't allow my bad potty mouth or my dismissive tone of the Christian right to taint what it is that she just said. And
Well, and
go ahead.
Um, oh, I was just gonna say this is like, faith aside, like, um, America was founded off the idea of, like America's never been a Christian nation. It'll never be a Christian nation. It is a nation that was founded by mostly atheists. Founding fathers were mostly atheists,
Yep.
and they founded a nation that anybody could have any freedom that they wanted. So it was never a Christian nation to begin with. In fact, it only started becoming a quote Christian nation in the 1950s. That's when they added "In God We Trust" to the Pledge of Allegiance. That's when they added no, I'm sorry. In God We Trust was to the money, but One Nation Under God was added to the Pledge of
Right.
Allegiance. I had to
Right.
run through it real quick.
Yeah.
That was added in the 1950s, and that was added for a political purpose. So,
After the Red
so
Scare, I believe like there was a
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like it's just that on the basis, it's we're Amer if you want to live in a theocracy, then you're not, that's against the American ideal. And it's just that simple. It's against the Constitution and it's against the American ideal. That's just what it is. If you want to live in a theocracy, go somewhere else because
Go
that's
go to
not what
Saudi
America
Arabia.
is. Yeah. I mean, that's the wrong one that they probably want. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the point is, I don't know of any place that mixes religion and politics that isn't the most evil place on earth, that doesn't do some of the most evil things on earth.
There's no superpower that I know of that mixes, yeah, that has a theological framework.
That's it.
As far as I know.
Well, I want to end with this. Thank you so much for coming on. But at the bottom of this page here, we talk about Arizona schools. And I want people to know why they're voting for you, for not just the overall saving of the democracy purposes, which we weirdly didn't get into as much as I thought I
Yeah,
would.
yeah, we had jumped around. There's so much to talk about. We jumped
Right.
around, but that's okay.
But um, I think we got to the points that I think people really want to vote on. Like, how can I afford health care? How can we afford affordable college? Because maybe you've been watching the wrong news or the wrong people and you didn't know that, yeah, we can. We just have to tax the rich, and that has to be okay with you. That has to be okay with you as a voter. And don't let them tell you that it's not. I think, all of these things were necessary because I want people to know if I have you on here, it's because I think you're worth voting for. And one of those is the Arizona schools. If you're watching from Arizona, I want you to tell them what you got going on with that, what you think about that, what's your plans there.
Yeah, so I looked up the stats, but also I can say this for definitive as well. So the Arizona legislature just convened. I want to say like last weekend or something like that. I was on a conference call with the Arizona the Democrats of the Arizona legislature, and they had finally passed the budget. It had been a problem because they were working through things, but I put it in the website as well. Arizona's 49th when it comes to funding for schools. It's extremely low. And then when you look at the quality of schooling that Arizona has, they're ranked 51. Now, you may ask yourself, how does that make sense? We only have 50 states. Well, they're even lower than DC also. They included DC in that calculation. So Arizona's, now granted, they're not always every year the worst, but between them, basically
They
the
didn't
red
drop
states,
from
even though
first.
Arizona's,
it's,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
what
like
we're saying.
Arizona's not a red state, like it's a purple state, but
Yeah,
like Oklahoma, all these red states, like these super mega states, and then like Arizona also is lumped into that for this.
yeah.
Um, they're always ranked very low on the education level, and like I think that that's a travesty. And it's not like everybody's just so good that Arizona just happens to be last. Like it's not like you're like if you score last place at the Olympics, you're still a rock star, right?
Right.
That's not where we're at here.
Yeah.
They're scoring last, and it's not good, right? um, sorry. So like
I'm
I
sorry.
think I no no no, you're
Beautiful.
good.
To be first in America, to be honest with you, you're still only halfway there compared to the rest of the world, unfortunately. But okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so like our schools are a problem. Like we don't get the funding for our schools. And I've been working like I'm not gonna get into the politics. There's like local problems with vouchers and public school or private schools and whatever. I'm not gonna get into all that. But Arizona, they're not funded and they're not well, and it's not the teacher's fault. It's all these laws that are holding them back, and our kids aren't getting the quality education that they should get. And that's what the right wants to do is they want to keep people. That's how these red states keep voting these MAGA Republicans in, is because, and I'm not saying that they're dumb, but they're not educated in the points that are self-serving, right? Like they're not educated in the actual facts to make the educated decisions to bring the people in that actually care about their lives, because the schools are tailored so that they stay in power. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how it works. So the education system, everything starts at the education level, and Arizona is one of the worst. And I don't think that that should be okay.
So, all right. So and now it's time here, and really, I'm surprised I didn't have a lot. I think because of what we talked about, we ended up agreeing so much. I kind of pride myself on trying to ask tough questions, trying to pride myself on pushing back, um, making explain things. And this is one where I'm going to do this. It says here, you want a comprehensive reform of Arizona school funding and school education. The dream of taxing everyone is something, of taxing the rich is something that we all want, but I think waiting for that before finding a way to making this comprehensive reform is would be misplaced. How would you? What are the ideas that you have? What concrete things can you say? Okay, you know what? What can we use to make this funding better for schools?
Yeah. And like I said, they just convened. I want to say like last week. And so, and so like this is like brand new information. And so I would say it's difficult to say that because they already tried to pass a comprehensive budget that would help this. And the Republicans, who unfortunately rule, the state might be purple, but the Republicans own the legislative seats. Uh,
Anybody here gerrymandering? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of gerrymandering. There's very little Democratic seats in Arizona, and I'm talking about the state legislative level. So we're not even talking about congressional level. At the state legislative level, there's a lot of Republicans that are running a lot of these legislative bodies, right?
Hmm.
They're vast majority Republican, and so the budget has been shit for a while now, and it just failed. Like the budget passed, but the Democrats had to make all the compromises, right? So it's still not good. Like the problems are going to persist. There's nothing I can do budget wise. So what that tells me is that the legislative power is failed in that regard. So what's the thing that we can do now to make a difference? Well, you can't like yelling at your state legislature isn't going to fix the problem now. Waiting until midterms to get them out isn't going to fix the problem now. I'd say the only way to fix the problem now is that we have to start not relying on them and we have to like look for fundraising events and we have to look for other grassroots organizations that can help bridge the gap because the state has failed us. There's nothing that we can do law wise because they already just passed the budget. There's nothing we can do law wise to fix that now. It's it's where it is until the next time they vote on it or when the big old Brazilian butt lift bill I don't know comes in. Once that comes down, like we'll be able to they'll probably like convene more again and like maybe continuing resolution or something on the state level. But for the most part, there's not much that we can do in terms of getting the state's funding through, in my opinion, through state processes. If you want to solve the problem, we have to put the solution into our own hands and seek that solution.
We're talking statewide. This is gigantic.
Yeah.
Who's are there that many of these organizations? Are there that many of these people? How are you going to get them? Or how are you going to get the people listening right now to be a part of that? If they vote for you and you have now a bit of cachet, a bit of power, whatever little bit that is as a junior congressperson, show me the way. What do
Yeah.
we do?
So
How do we get there?
yeah. So again, as a congressional Congress, so let's say I get elected, I'm CD6 congressional congresswoman, right? Um, I don't control the state, right? I would control more of the federal. So I would try to get like the other things like tax the rich and stuff to
Right.
be able to fund the states. But in lieu of that, what I can do from my position is now then I can now go down and have the meetings with the state legislature and try to use my power to get them to vote, to get them to change their budgetary stuff. I can't force them to do that, right? But what I also could do is I could use my power to try and primary the Republicans who are doing the wrong thing against them, or I could use my power to get Democrats in that actually care about progressive. Um,
I like that shit. I like that. I like that. I need some hardball. I like that. But I want to hear somebody fighting for something. I like that. I mean, if there's nothing else you can do, the least you can do then would be to do everything you can to get rid of these bums. Because that at least says to me that there might be a future as opposed to a dystopian one. What about this? Would you pledge? Would you pledge for the people who vote for you? And they know that it's so far gone. They know that even maybe they voted for the wrong people because they listened to the wrong people, and nobody's going to gonna give them a big deal about it. We want them now that they maybe see that those folks they voted for aren't with them. Would you pledge to take some of that time and a little bit of that voice in that pulpit that you have when we vote you in, to talk to those mutual aid groups, find those names, post those lists, have that be one of your agendas, even though it's not your job, to say, look, I'm telling you that we need mutual aid. So what I want to do is help to find these mutual aid, talk to these people, have them, whatever we can do to have partnerships with them in the school districts. I would like to help facilitate that. Would you make that pledge?
Yeah, I'll take it a step further, actually. Not only will I pledge to try and help these organizations that are doing the right thing, but I will work with whether they're Republican or Democrat or independent, I will work with the state legislative people who were elected, and I will work hand in hand with them as a congresswoman to help them also continue to do that as well. And I'll answer it with this way as well. Right now, I'm doing a fundraiser event for a place called Lori's Place. It's it's like mainly sexual assault, but like it's a nonprofit in the area, right? In this organization or this fundraiser that I'm doing, on there, all of the money that they donate to go there, it doesn't come to me, it goes to the organization. And if people want to donate to me, they have to manually do that. So there is no quick way to donate to me other than they have to consciously decide to do that.
Yeah.
I would do that same process with these organizations because I don't need the money. The organizations need the money. They're the ones doing, in my opinion, the real work. I'm just using my voice, my charisma to get other people to help them.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Now, what can I say? I'm honored to have you here once again, to be able to speak with you once again. We could talk for hours, if time allotted. So, what you just said right there is the exact type of person, authentic human being that I want a platform. That's the type of person that I want people to start thinking about voting for, not just the names or the letter behind the name that they're used to. Thank you so much for coming here and providing that for me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for giving me that platform, and I'm so glad that you did this, even though I know that we didn't get to everything that we wanted to talk about. I love the opportunity, and I know that we don't have enough fights because, well, we just tend to agree on stuff. But if you ever want me back on, I will always, and like even if we want to like be like, we're only going to cover these three things to make sure that we don't jump around everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
I'm definitely with it. I'm definitely with it, and you'll definitely be back on. But yeah, 2026 is coming soon, and I'd like to have you on again for sure. And in any way that I can help to help platform these things that I see, that I believe in, I will. So we're going to stay in contact. All right.
awesome. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Aiden Swallow, Arizona 6th Congressional District.
Oh yeah, and swallowforcongress.com. Go to my website.
Whoa, aswallowforcongress.com, and that is FOR, not the letter 4. aswallowforcongress.com. Thank you so much. Hey, yeah, you. Before you click away to watch someone unbox a tactical toothbrush, let's talk about something real. Political Drain isn't just another content mill. We're a digital front in a very real war. Not with bullets, but with ideas, with action, and with solidarity. We pair urgent news with critical education. And we build community around actual resistance, not the hashtag kind. The kind that moves. But here's the thing. None of this is free. It isn't. Behind every video is time, labor, research, and some weird guy asking if we're going to pay the hosting bill. And yeah, some of that money goes to things we can't necessarily say out loud. If you know, you know. Let's just say our special ops aren't Call of Duty LARPers. They're people making real moves to protect, uplift, and organize. You're not just funding a channel. You're funding a resistance network in a world where capital still calls the shots. Unfortunately, in a system built on artificial scarcity, even mutual aid has a price tag. And if we want to grow, if we want to win, we need your help. We need your help. So if you've got even a few bucks to spare, toss it our way. It's not for ads. It's not for merch drops, but for people making moves in the shadows so others can do it in the light. It's just us and you. So fund the mission, fund the fight, fund the future, because nobody's coming to save us. We save each other. That's how this works. Follow us on all these things you see here, and our link tree is in the description. Maybe even get some merch.